Since 1974, Kiss has produced a gold album with every single album they've recorded. 11 out of 15 albums have gone platinum. They are known for the incredible illusions and theatrics during their performances. The drummer goes 30 feet up in the air and turns around. The bass player grunts, groans, flies 40 feet up in the air and spits blood. The lead guitarist sets off fireworks and smoke illusions and blows up his guitar. And the rhythm guitarist crashes his own guitar into eensy, beensy, teeny tiny pieces, and he passes them out to the audience at the end of the concert, and the audience takes them home and trades them for food. Kiss is best known, however, for their mythical personas on stage, the wild makeup, the spectacular costumes, the superheroic posture, and they're all here tonight. The Kiss phenomena does not stop with sound. There are Kiss games, lunchboxes, toys, pinball machines, and soon to come is Kiss World, a traveling amusement park. It all adds up to an incredible organization with millions of dollars and millions of fans, and here they are. Now, let me tell you something. These four young men walked in here this afternoon about, what, 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago, carrying 8 enormous sacks filled with all their outfits, their shoes and their chokers and their capes and their jewels and their paraphernalia and their makeup. And I cannot believe that they would spend all this time because they're not going to perform here tonight. But rather get into themselves, as we like to do, or get people into themselves. So they did this for us, and I'm so appreciative of this. And they'll all be out here in just a second. Now, here are the remarkable members of Kiss. And first of all, Mr. Gene Simmons, who is the bass player, who is the bass player. Mr. Peter Criss, who is the drummer. Mr. Paul Stanley, who is the guitarist. And Ace Frehley, who is the lead guitarist.
I'm not the lead guitarist. I'm the trap player.
Now, tell how this started, you know, because Gene came in and he said, I didn't know I played bass. And I said, well, I see Aykroyd on Saturday Night Live with the bass fish, and then you say the trout player.
I have to excuse it. Bass.
Yeah, I've been called many things, but not the bass.
Never a bass player.
Never a bass player.
What would happen if you went out on stage for a concert and you didn't set off the fireworks and you didn't break up the guitar and you didn't have the smoke and the fire and the blood and all that, and you just came out and did your thing? What would they come to the concert?
It would still be a rip-roaring rock and roll show, because what we do when we go out there is we don't stand still when we play our instruments. We run around and pretty much raise hell. Can we say that on TV?
Yes, you can.
Well, we raise hell.
TV. I have medals from, you know, early days in high school, track, you know, track, and I'm sure we're four very athletic young gentlemen.
No, I think
incredible.
Yeah, this is our thing. You know, going out like this. So if we didn't go out like this, a lot of people would be really disappointed, because Kiss is known for the big show. So why shouldn't we go out and do what people expect?
How does what you do now in concert, what we saw on the videotape, and I'm assuming that that's reasonably recent, how does it differ from when Kiss first went out on stage? Did you come out with this tremendous energy right from day number one?
The energy was there, the equipment wasn't. We used to go out and we wanted everybody to think we were famous and that we were very big, so we used to have amplifiers that were empty because we couldn't afford speakers.
I remember that.
We'd pile them against the walls, and we'd tell the lighting man, don't put a light on them, because you could see these circles. Right, you could see where the speakers were. The energy was always there. When we used to play little clubs, we started out playing on Amityville, Long Island, and we always said, this is the Garden. You know, every night we played.
Peter said this was the Garden. I want some credit for that.
In fact, I remember opening up for lots of bands that had half the equipment. Oh, I see there's a live human being over there. Half the equipment right here in front of
Wait a second. Have you recorded your laugh?
No, we want to, though.
You must
record. These guys have been talking about recording my laugh. We've done 15 albums. They've never done it. Maybe on the 16th album they will do it.
I think you recorded it on your solo album. You did.
Absolutely not.
No, he didn't. Yeah.
Ace has been saving it for a Kiss.
That wasn't my real laugh. That was just a compilation of... You know.
All right, upcoming and future Kiss albums, Ace Frehley's laugh. Right.
You were saying something.
I forgot.
Oh, all right, fine.
No, I know what it was. When we first started out, we had so much equipment that the other bands...
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
We had no equipment. We were broke.
Oh, you remember the Marshall lamps and all that?
Oh, the phony Marshall lamps were incredible.
Right. Phony Marshall lamps. And we used to open up for these bands that had nothing. All they had were guitars and drums, and we had this 6-foot logo, and this was way back in '74. And people just used to get very, very angry at the fact that we could come out, put on we had a levitating drum set.
Wait,
we were still doing
that was funny. It would go up 6 feet, but there was like guys with ropes.
Keeping it from falling over.
Pulling me up, And if we didn't get the guys for that night, the drums would be going up.
When we first started out, we used to play clubs, and the drums would go up, and Peter would be like this, and the ceiling would be getting lower and lower.
And I used to tell the guys, don't lift me anymore. They still keep going at it.
No, but actually, sometimes it worked on a chain drive, the first levitating drum set that we had.
Bicycle chain.
And sometimes it would skip.
Gotcha.
Have you ever had a 10-speed bicycle?
Surely.
It would go up like this.
And then drop and go back.
And my heart would drop with it.
And we all fell for Peter.
Yeah, well, we played along with it, though, you know. In fact, the first time, that's part of the show. You can never let on.
I'm glad you guys
When we first started playing, we had to get used to wearing these kind of shoes. And Ace is notorious for his bad balance. And maybe the first couple of months that we were on tour, invariably, once a night, you would hear a thud on stage and you would look, and Ace would be sprawled out. And being troopers, we would run over and play over.
These guys were incredible.
It was
if I would fall on
choreographed.
stage, these guys would run over to me and make believe like it was part of the show. They'd stand over me and we'd do like this. I'm looking up and they're looking down. We'd put the guitars together and bounce them off
People would
and turn
love
around.
it. There goes the lead guitarist.
Well, that's part of the show.
When you see the audience going crazy, what goes through your minds? Do you have time to think about audience reaction while you're
I
performing?
feel like I'm in a movie. I always get the feeling that you know, without comparing ourselves to anybody else, it's almost like the mid-60s, like we're in a Beatle kind of movie. And we're not even playing ourselves because, I mean, when you realize that a lot of the people at the show have been waiting 3 or 4 months to come see us, and this is like the big night for them. And when you see all these people screaming and crying and all that, and things on,
Crying, why did I spend all that money? I spent all this money.
This is it. He goes up in the air. We're out of here.
True confession time. Right here. Huh? True confession time. Right. Exclusive on the Tom Snyder program.
You'll suffer in the dressing room.
Whose idea was Kiss? Who invented Kiss?
We all did.
We all did, yeah.
We've been to, Gene and I were together for about 9 years now.
Not sexually, just
That's the later part of the program. I want to slip it past 120, and then we'll get into the drugs and and all that stuff.
No, none of that.
Okay.
I don't take drugs.
Mom, no drugs. Go ahead.
No, you were saying 9 years.
Yeah, we've been together about 9 years, and then we broke up a band we were in, and Peter joined us, and then Ace joined us, and the rest is Kiss story.
We always wanted. I always wanted.
Kissmas, it's like everything is
Really?
Kiss. Kissmas, Kiss Story.
The thing was, we always wanted theatrics and music together. I did by myself.
We're still hoping for it.
No, and finally I met these two nuts, and they wanted it. And we picked him off the Bowery.
Tom McCann, 398 specials.
That was it.
Can I just go around the horn here and start with Gene? And tell me where you're from and where you went to school.
All right, I've got a question to ask you. My manager's on stage. Is this true confession time or am I on?
No, you're just...
All right.
Really on.
All right. Then I'm from New York City.
Wait a second.
Wait a minute.
They're not on.
I'm from Queens, New York. Actually, not too far away from Paul's house. We kind of used to wave to each other before we knew each other. That's right. Before we knew each other, I'd see this guy waving back, I'd wave.
Gene was
and
into
then,
telescopes.
He loves it. Huh? Ace loves it.
Ace loves
Can I tell
anything.
you something
Oh,
funny?
I get beat up by him.
Before you guys came on, they gave me a little sheet on each one of you to read, where you're from and how you grew up and blah, blah, blah. And the note said, now Ace seems to be the most laid back of the four, and he's the one who'll probably be the hardest to make talk.
Well, this is not Ace.
This isn't
This is George. This is George.
I'm an imposter. Ace is back in his ass.
That's true.
We got our roadmap.
Who's on first? What's on second? Listen, Tom, about that swampland in New Jersey you were wondering about.
You grew up in New York. You all grew up in different
We're
parts.
all
I
New
grew up in
York
the
guys.
Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, man.
I grew up 211th Street and Broadway. I was the only Jew in an Irish neighborhood. And you learn to either run or fight. And then I moved to Queens.
But he used to paint himself green
We were still running the
every once in a while.
And
That's where the makeup comes in.
I knew Gene and I would be in a band together because he was the only guy in Queens who was wearing whiteface and a ponytail. This guy.
That is true. Boots like this is, it's not your regular 398 Tom McCann special.
That's right. Those are $7.98 at Hardee's.
At Hardee's.
Tell me about your outfits. I mean, did you design your own outfits, all of you? And tell me what each outfit means. And I'll start with you, Ace.
Well,
That means a
I
cucumber.
think this outfit is self-explanatory. I mean, you know, this is part of a kind of a V shape. This is my utility belt, and we don't want to go any below than my waist area because that's reserved for concert payers. You know?
I understand that.
But,
and after it's all over, they say, this is what we paid for.
And that's why they always feel
I stole this from Flash Gordon, and, you know, I have my cape here.
But you're kind of like a spaceman, huh?
No, actually, I'm a plumber. On the side. Look.
Well, listen, I got a little piece of pipe backstage I'd like to have you work on.
Tell me about it. Oh, you wanted it, but I was dead.
You old sweet talker, you. But I'll tell you, I read on the sheet that they gave me where they said that it's hard to get you out of your shell.
Hi, Mom. Ace ultimately would look into the Mylar and start laughing at himself.
I like when he liked me, kept up.
Having a rotten time, right, Tom?
I'm having an awful time.
Take it easy. It'll get better.
We'll hope so. I was just talking with the gentlemen in KISS, George and Peter and Paul and Ace about...
George is not George manager.
I want to ask...
Oh, George! Oh, you're Ace! George is not here.
George
how
is
about
here, but
James?
he's in the background.
This is
The bass player!
All right, you better talk about that list right now because you're not getting away with it.
You were telling me about something that happened on the road.
Well, why don't we let Paul kick off the story and
All
I'll
right,
finish
fine.
it.
Like I said, Paul was
We
going
were
to
in
kick off the story.
Arkansas.
There's so many great road stories. It's really an education. When you go out on the road, you're really green. I just thought of something. The very first tour we did, you know, you expect all these women and you start settling for girls. But
Confession time here.
I remember one instance where I didn't even tell you. I was with a girl in my room and I said to her, "So tell me a little about yourself." You know, and she said, "I just got out of the nut house."
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
No, but the story we were talking about, we were in Arkansas, and I was
That's why you wanted me to stay in your room that night.
I was with a girl, and this was the first tour, and it turned out
This was about 4 years ago.
that she was 16, and it turned out there was a prison right across from the hotel, convenient to take me away, and it also turned out that she made her living going from room to room in the hotel. She was a hooker, and all of a sudden there's a knock at my door, and it's the police telling me to open up or else. And I can't figure out what's going on except that somebody must have told on me. Meanwhile, Ace is in the room next door throwing his furniture onto the highway, having a party.
Yeah.
We were on the 20th floor of a hotel, and I don't want to name the hotel because I don't want to be incriminated.
Again.
Anyway, I threw all my furniture out the window, and I was with two other friends of mine that actually were from New York, but had somehow ended up in Arkansas at the moment. Anyway, to make a long story
thought
short,
we were in Canada.
my road manager runs in the door and he says, "The state troopers are here. They're going to arrest you." He said, "Get in bed and put your head under the pillow." I said, "Good." So 5 minutes later, the state troopers walk in, and there's my road manager, Frankie Scanlaro. Hell of a nice guy. I love him. And he says, "Look at him. He's drunk. He's under the pillows. He didn't do anything."
He was
Go to Paul's
There
room.
was
con on us. He was
There's a lot of people in his room. There was a big party. They got him drunk. They drugged him. They threw all his furniture out the window. They ran out the door.
They got him drunk. They got him drunk.
They got me drunk. I fell out. They threw all his furniture out the window. And look at him. He's
We got
gone.
away with it.
And he talked his way.
And it flew, huh?
Yeah.
That wasn't the first time he talked his way out of getting in jail. But he was an incredible guy. Frankie, I love you. I'll see you New Year's Eve.
Going into the last commercial, and I don't know if we still have the record up, but we played a piece of music and you'd said something that caught my ear. A lot of people won't recognize that.
That's Beth, written by Peter Criss.
As being
Kiss music.
Yeah.
And if it's still up, if you could just sneak it in a bar or two, because maybe people watching this have a short memory span. It'll be here in a second. But now, why would you say people wouldn't recognize?
People have preconceived notions about who it is that Kiss is. You know, they think that all we are is, you know, guitars, loud guitars, drums. We're also four happy-go-lucky kind of guys that wear makeup. You know? No.
Go ahead.
We,
Happy-go-lucky.
Peter Criss. Naturally, they don't play the vocal.
That's us doing
No
the
guitars, no drums, that's right.
That means down. That means
My
down.
God, to me, it just looks up and down.
Yeah, just down.
Well, that goes to show you we could write with, it's a symphony. I mean, we used a whole big symphony when I wrote that tune.
When have you done that in front of people?
I do it every night.
With a tape. We use a tape for
I
that
use the tape, but I sing live to it. And we won People's Choice Award for it. It was a big hit for us.
But you played the violins yourselves?
No, we had like a
You have charts written out for, the various sections, and you make sure that they play the right melodies and the right timbre.
A lot of people, have so many preconceived notions about Kiss, but the greatest thing about the success we've got now is that we're basically free to do anything we want.
like this.
What are you doing?
He's ruining your teddy bear.
I'm trying to make him a space bear. Space bear. The only space bear in captivity. I got him. He's captured.
Captain Bear.
Okay.
Space bear.
How are you, Tom?
I'm all right, thank you. In your off time. I mean, when you're not performing, not in your off time, but when you're not, what is the recreational activity that you enjoy?
Oh, orgies,
Yeah.
Or
sacrifices.
Human sacrifice.
Human sacrifices.
There's a movie where it says the guy said orgies.
Orgies, that's...
Oggy doggy.
No, I do various things.
Do you mind if I hold on to him? He's
No, you can hold him as long as you like.
Thank
Just make
you.
certain that when you leave, he stays.
here.
Okay. I've heard the horror stories about thefts. Yes.
watch horror movies, collect Betamax cassettes of horror movies, cartoons, old. Try me. Name me any horror movie, and I'm putting you on the spot. As old as you want. It could be silent.
Oh, this is his game. Gene's got you, man.
Of course he's going to get me. He's gonna
No,
get me real
because
straight.
I'm not that good on horror movies.
Well, Pat told me that you were.
You don't?
No, I heard you like the old gangsters movies, because I love the old
No, he doesn't like that either.
No,
he just
I
likes
don't- I
bears.
don't care for those.
How about
Cartoons. No.
Cartoons I care for.
All right, try me.
You mean if I give you a cartoon and you'll give me the plot? Or what?
You could do that.
Animation.
What would you like to do?
All right, I'll give you one. Bugs Bunny, Hairway to the Stars.
Airway to the Stars is when he goes, when the big spaceship lands, the Martian comes out.
You got it.
With the little helmet,
almost
and
Roman.
Chuck Jones produced it from an original script by Robert McKimson. You can check on it.
I don't have to, because Chuck Jones was here about 3 weeks ago, and I remember that conversation.
It is
because
Chuck
we
Jones.
talked about Hairway to the Stars.
Yeah.
Boy, you just picked it up.
Now, do you also, when you say horror movies, do you mean mystery movies as well? Like
No.
if I said you Diabolique, would you know that one?
That's a French movie from
That's
58, I
Put the
believe.
bear down.
Yeah. I don't really go in for suspense mystery as much as something that's got a sense of outre about it. How about that? That's a French
Well,
movie.
then you'd know the day
like
the Earth
it.
stood still.
Of course, 1952, Michael Rennie, Gort the Robot, Klaatu Verada Nikto. Hi, Mom.
Here we go.
How do I do, Mom? Yes, that's
Invaders
what...
from Mars?
Invaders from Mars, 1953 with...
Some space.
1953
That's a big one.
with... who was Lou Costello's girlfriend? God.
Quick.
Hillary Brooks
Brenner.
is right. Bring him on the stage.
Hugh Brenner was...
Hillary Brooks was the mother of the child.
So that's
right.
Trivia, horror movies, and you watch them a lot, and you have a
Yeah.
collection of them?
In fact, yes, I get into my little straitjacket, put on the Betamax, on it goes. Hello, Luli.
Little disconnected things come out.
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's a living, you know what I mean.
And you?
I fantasize being a masked crime fighter. That's what I always wanted to do when I was a kid. This is about as close as I can get to it. The other time when I'm not on stage, I kind of sit in my apartment and say, I want to be alone.
That was very good.
Someone once said that, didn't you?
When did you start dressing up?
Like this?
No, this is not
This
dressed
isn't...
up.
You know,
This isn't that wild for this guy.
No, this really. You should see what I wear on the street.
Nothing.
I don't know. When I was a kid, I always had this dream of becoming a crime fighter, but there was never any call for it. I always wanted to be on a stallion overlooking the Long Island Expressway with my hair blowing back, fighting crime. But just didn't work.
No, there aren't too many guys around on stallions looking over the Long Island Expressway with their hair blowing in the wind.
Except
saying,
at night.
Hi, I fight crime. Are you the one who used to one of you used to race cars a lot, or
Well, I tried it,
yeah?
but
Many
it doesn't
times.
work well for me. I've wrecked quite a few cars in my time. I'm very lucky to be here. I really am. So I stopped that. I promised today no more racing cars.
Well, you know, Peter, we're very lucky to have you here.
Well, it's good to be here,
No,
Tom.
it's really strange, Tom. Peter has 9 lives. He's come close several times.
That's good, Ace. He's the
And we
cat.
still love him, and we're glad to see that he's still around. God love you.
So now I stay up watching late. I like Bogart movies and Cagney and the real old gangster stuff, Dillinger, all those real, and I collect guns, I target shoot. I don't
Just
hunt.
toy guns now. We're not talking
No,
about
I
real
collect
guns.
real guns.
What do you mean?
I can say that.
But as a collector of them because
I
of
collect them and I shoot them only targets, so I never hunt animals or anything like that.
What is it about having a gun collection?
I'm fascinated by them. Maybe because I'm fascinated by gangster movies. If I could relive, I would love to be in the 20s and be like a Dillinger or a Babyface Nelson.
In the movies. See how I'm trying to bail him out? In the movies. It's McCoy, our manager. Hello, Bill.
Wait, if he wants to be on the
Gene, are you kind of the guy who kind of keeps it all level
mother.
and keeps it all...
You know what I like?
The mother.
He's the mother
See, because
superior.
again, let me tell you. Let me tell you something.
What's hit? The man is hitting! I don't believe this!
Because if
Give
this
me a
guy-
break, for God's sake! I'm your host!
That was
Gene's
fun.
talking about being a monster.
Well, try this for fun. Man's violent, for heaven's sake.
I can't be against.
You're rude.
I'm sorry.
All I know is if this guy gets himself in trouble, I'm in trouble.
Wait a minute. You can run around being a vampire and I should be a dance candy? That's not fair.
Here we go. I just started something.
That's what I just said. He wanted to be a gangster in the 20s, and that's what he wanted to
But
be.
the 20s are over and here I am now, a drummer
That's
and
right.
Kiss.
But everybody's got a fantasy, and we're all good guys. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Good.
Probably have
Definitely.
good substantial breakfast every morning.
No, we
Oh, I was
No.
giving the money to the poor. I would have
Well,
kept.
all one he has to do is say nanu nanu, and I'm up 40 feet in the air.
No, I wouldn't.
Now I read again in the little thing, the one that said Ace probably won't talk at all. Toys, that you were a toy or a game collector.
That's true. No,
Gene,
I collect
Still
toys.
Donahue says, I need a little help here. You know what I mean?
No, I told Pat I collect antique toys.
I'm very articulate if I want to be.
Do you want to be?
Talk to me?
No, but now we've gone through their fantasies or their things
Well,
that they
yeah.
Let Ace tell you
I'm
about the
into
toys got
science
under the
fiction,
ground.
I'm into technology. I'm fascinated by the fact that 5 or 10 years from now we'll be able to have space stations circling the Earth that are totally
Microwave oven.
controlled and energized by solar energy. That are totally independent of the Earth. I think that's fascinating.
Would you care to tell our audience what you were doing at 4 o'clock this morning?
No. I don't want to get arrested. No, actually,
But seriously,
I like that.
but actually,
I'm a Taurus. I'm a down-to-earth human being, and
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Taurus is an Earth sign. Come on, let's get back to reality.
But Ace is in spin.
We are.
Tell him about the toy you've got under the ground, that big toy that you just built.
Oh,
bunker.
I built a recording studio underground, 18 feet underground, next to my house.
I mean, you're talking about the state of the art on the East Coast. There's no place like this.
It's automated board. It's all computerized. Cost me a lot of money. I don't want to talk about it. My cannon's ready to.
No, but this is good.
I'd like you to
place to
tell
hide.
about the helicopter that you're building.
Well, I'm into radio-controlled, model airplanes, and most recently helicopters, which are more fascinating because they're much more challenging. Anybody that's into radio-controlled models knows that right now helicopters are hard to control. And it's the state of the art now.
Bet you didn't know
it's
that.
tough.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
The Germans make the best ones at the moment. Right now I have a Japanese one I'm having trouble with. No, I have a German one on order.
Don't
Okay.
do it.
I'm not doing anything. I'm talking about.
Don't you dare.
This guy's a good egg right here. He's a little hard-boiled, but he's good.
What strange things have happened to you? Strange fan mail? Or Look at this.
You know, as soon as we start...
Come on,
strange?
Gene, call him off, please.
Okay.
Okay,
Easy, Ace, go on.
As soon as we started doing concerts from the very first show on, the first show, in fact, was done pretty close by, 14th Street, right off of 5th Avenue. First show we ever did was New Year's Eve, 1973-74. My hair caught fire. There's a part in the show where I breathe fire, and of course I hadn't had too much practice then, and the right side of my hair caught fire, and everybody thought it was part of the act. They just went right along with it, and I didn't know what happened. Somebody came, doused me with a towel.
That's the trouble with this show that we do. It's so big, and there's so much going on that when something really goes wrong or somebody gets hurt, nobody ever knows it.
knows
Well, at one show, I got hit with something, and my eye was bleeding. And go ahead, Paul, bleed from that eye.
Miami, when you got electrocuted.
I was electric. I almost
Want to throw a
died.
bomb up at me?
That's not fun. I've been laughing this whole show. In Miami, I touched the railing, which was metal at the time, and the railing wasn't properly grounded. And I everybody in this group knows I almost died that night.
We finished that show,
passed
though.
out. I couldn't, for the rest of the show, there was no feeling in my fingers.
That was a close call.
So since then, we've gone with more electronics. We've got
Wireless guitars now, so we
that
can't
don't
be
need wires,
shocked.
based on the radio. Same principle that his helicopter is based on.
Yeah, even,
Absolutely.
even once.
That's great.
What a guy.
That's what I call band and interaction.
M80s. And I couldn't.
You got to start over because he was going while you were starting.
When he was electrocuted, somebody once said M80.
What a line, huh? Hey, when Ace was electrocuted, you know, when we fried
I
Ace.
slowed right into it.
There's a TV over there.
And it really, really
incredible.
I really couldn't hear for 3 months. It was really dangerous.
That's why we go.
I still can't hear. What? Peter? What?
No, you got to tell it all over again.
We were in some town, I don't know where it was, way down south. Way down Dixie. And I got some kid through it, they're called M80s.
Oh, the big firecracker.
Yeah.
Yes,
It was Memphis,
cherry
down the
bombs.
toilet in
It was in
school.
Memphis, Tennessee. And it literally blew me off the drums. And I woke up in a car. And I went back and did the show, but I couldn't hear out of my ear for at least 3 months. It was really dangerous.
So that's why we got some bad reviews.
Yeah. But there's been some scary moments.
Who do you think is the audience for KISS? Who do you play to?
We initially thought we were doing this for ourselves initially because we started out. Here's the old rap we had. We initially started out being the audience. It wasn't that long ago, and the premise behind anything that we do is we try to place ourselves in the audience. Would we like it if we did it? And we started out with pretty much of a middle teen audience, and now it's grown into a circus. We've got fairs.
It's amazing.
Leaps and bounds.
It's crazy. If we're in a hotel across the street from the halls we're playing, it really looks like Ringling Brothers because you see parents, you see 6 years old, you see 25-year-olds. It's really it appeals to a lot
And if we did a concert in Bombay, there would even be cows.
I bet you didn't know that, did you? I don't believe it. If you cross the street,
Look at this guy. He's a good guy.
I'm getting bruised by you.
Wake up.
I've been made. I'm getting killed. I'll do it with you at the same time.
I've got to move on to the lady Dorothy Dietrich, who saws the member of the staff in half, which is a million laughs. Do you want to be sawed in half tonight?
Absolutely.
Why not? But may I thank you all for being here. Ace,
Tom,
you have a
hey,
terrific
I
sense of
enjoyed
humor, and you're a good
And
man.
enjoy the trains.
Thank you very, very much.
I heard about
Thank you
that.
very, very much.
I'm
Peter,
into it, too.
good to
Thank
see
you,
you.
Tom.
Thank you very much. And Paul, thank you. It's
great.
And I'm sorry I said you were a bass player, Gene. You're
He's a good fish.
quite all right, Ralph.
He's a good egg.
Take care.
Thank you all very much.
We had a ball.
It's a pleasure.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
It's good to be home.
Watch out for a full moon.
Where are you?
Okay, True Confessions. We'll continue after these words from our sponsors.
Yes.
And what about the attendance? It's a record attendance.
The attendance is wonderful.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Over
We're so
100,000.
pleased. We sent out invitations to all our friends and said, please come spend the day with us. And lo and behold, we have 100,000 of our closest friends who came here to deliver a sermon on rock and roll and to let the world know that rock and roll is #1. Thank you very much. Peace, love, happiness, black leather.
Amen. Just for a second of seriousness. All right, well, that's over now.
And I'm running for president.
Yeah, good idea.
Hey, why not? We have enough clowns.
Yeah, Gene, how did Japan go for you? How did my what? Japan. Japan. I thought he said, how did my bang go for... No, Japan was really fabulous. It was outstanding. We hadn't been there in actually 11 to 12 years, and we had to go back and visit some of our children.
We ate a lot of raw fish.
Was it hot stuff for you, Gene, out there? It's great. It's really unbelievable. It's hot stuff, yes. It's hot stuff.
Great.
Well, it was great to look at the people's faces, and it was grand.
Knackered I was.
I'm hurting myself.
Paul, tell us, what's it feel like to be at Donington again, this time on your own terms?
Well, you know, last year was kind of like a little bit of foreplay, and tonight we all come together. You know?
You never give up, do you?
Are you kidding?
We're going to have a whale of a time there, this is sweet again. The last thing we did the thing we did with you in the States, the first thing we've ever had said it.
Yes, you believe that? The Bailey Brothers with Kiss. Good night.
That's all that was useful.
Yeah.
We're going to have some new material today, Gene. We're going to do new stuff. Actually, we're going to start the set with Deuce and really dig back and do a real sort of review of the past 15 years.
Yeah.
So the show's going to be 15 years long.
Right, look forward to that. We'll see you in about 15 years' time.
But it's great. We're obviously very honored to be here, and it's great to see you people. We love it.
Very good. Very good. I think everybody's going to have a good time. A splendid time is guaranteed for all.
And the rain stayed away.
I'm just going to say
That's
that next,
unbelievable.
So let's just make sure we get on before it starts raining.
I think
we better get off and get on.
As soon as we start playing, it's going to start raining.
Okay, listen, we don't want to keep...
start tapping his toes, and that's it.
That's it. We don't want to keep you any longer, Paul. Have a great show, Gene.
Gene, thanks for popping in.
A pleasure.
All right, you. All right.
Got a brand new album out, Crazy Nights, and I caught up with Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley recently and asked them, it's your brand new album, what's it all about, boys?
Well, if you buy the album, you'll find a hole in the middle of it. And it's 11 songs. And we spent a good bit of time doing it. And it's great. I mean, I can't lie. Folks, it's great. It's in the tradition of everything we've done that's real good. I think we kind of liken it to a cross between maybe Animalize, which was the album before last, and Destroyer, which was a pretty good album from what everybody tells us.
One of your classics.
Yeah, so it's quite good. I mean, we spent quite a bit of time writing it, and I think everybody's going to like it. I mean, we're pleased.
Gene, I noticed that Ron Nevison produced the album for you. Now, he seems to be everybody's favourite producer at the moment after his success with Ozzy and Heart last year. What attracted you to him?
Actually, Ron wears very tight pants, and that was one of the more important reasons that we got involved with him. No, that's not so at all. Ron had actually been known to us for a while for his work with the earlier English groups, Bad Company and Led Zeppelin and so on. Right. And that was really much more the appealing factor instead of his recent success with some of the more recent groups. That's not as important. But we'd been producing our own albums for quite some time, and we thought maybe it was time to have somebody else to have a sounding board off of. And Ron seemed like a very good choice. In fact, he really came through, did a terrific job.
I noticed a lot of the material on the new album seems to be written in conjunction with people outside of the band. You, Paul, will go away and write with someone else, and so will Eugene. Don't you guys ever write together?
Also within the band, though. The band also co-writes material with each other. Bruce Kulick and Eric Carr, our guitar player and drummer, lead guitar player and drummer, also co-wrote the material back and forth. So some were outside writers, and some of the material was within the band.
But what about you two? Don't you two ever write together?
No. I think what happened at some point is that we pretty much established styles that were complementary within the band's framework, but at the same time, I think it was essential that they stayed separate. In the beginning, there was more similarity in our writing styles, so maybe they complemented each other when we wrote together. I think at this point, they've both developed in a way that balance each other, and I think it's kind of important to the balance of the band that we keep a certain integrity in our own writing. I don't think that either one of us, quite honestly, wants to compromise for the other. You know, when you have certain ideas of what you want to do, you don't want to give in to somebody else, especially him. I don't want to give in.
Certainly not. I wouldn't want to give in to me either.
Do you have a fight about material?
Oh, sure, all the time.
Rayon, Dacron, nylon.
All the time. No, I think part of a healthy relationship, anybody that tells you they don't have tiffs, which is a word I never use, but you understand what that means, is really just playing nice politics. We fight all the time. You know, this material is better than that material. Let's pick this instead of that. But sooner or later, the cream rises to the top. And always the main motivation for us is always to make the best possible record. And oftentimes, you have to push ego aside. I mean, ego is a great motivation, but you know, you have to push it aside. And often the best songs, whoever writes them, they have to be used. And it doesn't matter that more of the songs on this record are Paul's. They're just better songs.
Quite honestly, what we felt in the States was, if that's all it is, then we'd just as soon tell our fans to tape it off MTV, you know, because there's really no need to get people paying for something that they can have for free. In other words, it would almost be like subsidizing the cost of making the video in the first place, which I don't think is anything that the fans should have to do. You do the videos as almost a gift to the fans, and then you're turning around and saying, pay for it. So if we were going to put out a package, we felt, let's make it special. Let's give vintage footage, which is a lot of the stuff that
we should mention here actually what is actually on this video. There's archive material.
Yeah, there's live material, as
old
in
black and white stuff that goes back. Some of it has never been televised or telecast.
Yeah, when we were it's an open. There's films of us as an opening act, you know. So we were playing a hall for about 3,800 people as the support band, and there's you know, just really stuff that chronicles the band.
But a lot of it is us swimming around, fooling around with a lot of scantily clad females in Paul's summer home in Los Angeles, which is this big palatial house of decadence. It says so as you pull up to it. It says 3819 Mockingbird Lane, House of Decadence. It says so right on the...
So it's fun. I mean, there's great footage. There's also all the videos. There's also interviews with us. There's some beautiful women.
How do you view those bands, in particular bands like Wasp or Twisted Sister, who've obviously copped a lot of your look and music?
I think it's fun.
You can't ever... Every band's got to live or die by their own talent, and everybody listens to other bands. We certainly grew up... We don't make any claims to being, you know, the most unique and totally original band that ever existed. We also grew up and listened to other bands, and were likewise influenced by the bands that we grew up with, specifically a lot of British bands. I just got choked up by that. You know, Zeppelin, The Who, a lot of English bands, specifically the more flamboyant of the bands. And so these bands were influenced by us, and, you know, that's the cycle. Rock lives on, and it's fine.
You also can't negate that bands every day are influenced by each other. I mean, it's not necessarily only saying new bands. I mean, just by reason of the fact that we're all playing music, you're influenced by what's going on around you. And I wouldn't want to be so pig-headed to think that, you know, we're this magical force that created a genre of music, right? You know.
How long are you going out for this time, and where will you be going?
Until we drop. We have no particular plans. We have the first couple of months booked, and we'll probably stay out, you know, 8 months to a year.
We'll do the States, and that'll take quite a bit of time. You can easily stay in the States for 6 or 7 months and never play the same hall and do 5 shows a week, you know, and play arenas from coast to coast. So we'll do that, and then after that we'll probably gear up to do Europe. I mean, we're definitely, we're definitely, you know, definitely going to be here. Ideally, we'd like to come over during summer and do festivals, because the one thing that's sometimes difficult for us is when people are seeing photos of us and hearing about our show, sometimes when you come to Europe, you have to compromise that, because quite honestly, some of the stages that we've used, we'd have to knock out the side walls in some of the halls to get that thing in. So by playing arenas, we're a bit limited, but to do the festivals, we'd be able to do the whole show. And that's real important to us at this point. I don't think we want to compromise that, especially for the fans.
The question always arises, how much longer can they keep this up for? Do you see KISS continuing into the 1990s and keeping up the same relentless success that you enjoyed in the 70s and 80s?
It's a big question.
Yeah, it's so hard to say. All you can do is continue something as long as it's fun. And if it's not fun for the people that you're doing it for, then it's not going to be fun for you. And vice versa. I mean, if you're not enjoying it, I think people are going to see through what you're doing and say, well, they're going through the motions. So it's kind of like a party. I mean, when you're at a party, you don't worry about how long you're going to stay. As long as it's fun, you're there. And so far, this has been an endless party. The refrigerator's still stocked. There's still something to drink. There's good food to eat.
And lots of girls.
And lots of girls.
So you did all your albums by yourself, you did nearly everything, and now all of a sudden with a new album you have a producer. Why?
Well, after doing as many albums as we've done, mainly the reason that we've always done our own albums is because we didn't think anybody could do them as well as we could. And
you know, producers come and go, and there's a big producer this year, and next year nobody hears about him. And our track record is much better than theirs. We've had 21 platinum albums. But Ron Nevison is a very special producer, and he's very talented, and he's done some great stuff. So we figured that if we got together with him, we could probably do something very special. And everybody out there is going to listen to this album and go, wow!
2 years have gone since the last album, and you haven't been to Europe, not even to Germany. So why?
Well, the truth is we took a long time to write the album. It was very important for us to get a good song quality, and we didn't want to settle. We didn't want to do second-rate material, so we kept writing and rewriting. And to be honest with you, the next time we're going to be in Europe is probably not going to be until next summer when we can do the festivals. First, we have to do 8 months or so in the rest of the world, including America.
We want to, you know, it's very important that when we come to Europe, that we give everybody the same show that they see in America. Many times what happens is that people see photographs of the concerts that we do in America, and then if you go to the country and you have to scale down the show, people are disappointed. It's more important to us to wait to a time when we can bring over the whole show. Right now, if we brought over the KISS show, we'd have to knock out the sides of the buildings to get it in.
Is the lineup of the band now the same lineup as of the last album, or did you change a guitar player again?
No. This lineup's been pretty constant for the last 3 years. Bruce Kulick joined us on guitar 3 years ago, and Eric's been the drummer for 7 years. So I don't think we see anything changing for the future. I think this is the final KISS lineup to the very end. It's very good. Everybody's very happy. We get along great.
Bruce, did you want to say something?
No, I'm holding my mouth.
Your KISS biographical video, which is called Exposed, has not been released in Germany. I don't know why.
It's going to be out, supposedly they said it's going to be out quite soon. And it's a great package video. It's an hour and a half long. In America, it's already a platinum video. The way it started is the record company wanted us to put out the last 8 videos on a cassette. And we said that we thought that wasn't fair to the fans because they're paying for something that they should be able to take for free off the television. So we said if we're going to put out a package, we want to have old concert footage, vintage footage, interviews with the band, beautiful women in bikinis and no bikinis.
That's the point, I think, why it hasn't been released in Germany yet.
Really?
Because it made a big fuss in the press, I don't know.
Really?
Well,
it's
quite
open and
well, it's rock and roll.
Very private.
It's very nice. It's a little glimpse of what KISS is like at home. And without all these people, we wouldn't be able to do these kind of things. So we thank them.
After 21 LPs and 14 years of business with KISS, how do you still keep the pleasure in the whole thing, that it doesn't get boring after a while?
It doesn't get boring because fans make it exciting all the time. It's fans who always remind you that they're there and that they're expecting the great stuff. That fans are really the only reason we started this thing, to make somebody else happy besides ourselves. You know, it's a dream come true for us. And every time you meet a fan who comes up to you and tells you how much the band means to him, it recharges you every time. You know, we just came into the studio here and there were some German fans outside and it was great. You know, they were just so much energy and you soak that up and that helps.
I wonder how they found out, really.
I have no idea. They were waiting for us at the hotel. It's amazing.
They were under our beds.
Unterm Bett auch noch. Skandal.
Yeah.
Open up the closet. Yee! There's somebody with a camera.
It's the story of our lives, Skandal.
There are always a lot of rumors, and the newest rumor is, particularly here in Germany, that there will be a KISS reunion with makeup and Ace Frehley and Peter Criss.
It's very funny. One of the greatest things about being an important band, I guess, is that there's always rumors. Most of the time they're not true. In this case, it's definitely not true. There's no plans, there's no reason to do a KISS reunion because there is a KISS. KISS is Gene, myself, Eric, and Bruce. And we would never ever want to go backwards. We're not interested in recreating the past. The past is the foundation of the present and the future, but to go out just to make some money and put together an old band, we don't want to. And Bruce doesn't want to do it, and Eric doesn't want to do it.
I heard that you're really a fan of rhythm and blues music, and you as a guitar player, what do you think of the new style of playing guitar like the real speed metal, which is really fast. Have you ever tried? Yeah, speed and thrash metal. That's what it's called in Germany. So, do you really think this is a new style that would remain, or have you ever practiced it?
I don't think, you know, everything. I don't have to like everything, you know. Sometimes it's difficult to comment on something because people think that your opinion is so important. My opinion's not very important. I don't particularly like most of that stuff, but if somebody else likes it, then it's okay. You know, I don't have to like what someone else likes. It's not my taste.
So this kind of guitar playing is not what you would like to practice, or?
No, I mean it doesn't do anything for me.
Why have you become an actor? Because this is a rumor that's really true.
That's
that
a rumor also.
One of these rumors finally came true, is that you're in the film Ragman,
Right.
which is Trick or Treat in America.
Right.
So, what has happened?
I don't remember that movie at all. I flew into South Carolina for one day, shot all my scenes, and then left, so I don't remember much of the movie. So what was the question? Why?
Why have you become an actor?
Why not?
I think what we did is design outfits and design a show, and we went out there and wrote the songs, and whatever it is that we became on stage is who we became on stage naturally. There were no choreographers and no sort of acting coaches saying, well, to look mean or to look pretty or whatever, you have to do these sorts of moves. We just were whoever it is that we naturally are.
But what if you hadn't become a musical performer?
I love horror movies. So I probably would have been a ghoul stealing, I don't know. Probably something that would have gotten me attention, because I think ultimately that's why all performers do this. That's why at least I'm doing this. And I think the same kid in class who keeps making a clown of himself or is too loud or whatever, it's really the same thing that motivates me anyway.
Were you that kid that was...
Oh yeah, always too loud, always, you know, sort of pulling the ponytail of the girl in front
But then
of
you
me.
became a teacher, right?
Yeah.
So you did have to put quite a bit into preparing for this.
Yeah, you go to school. That's what everybody did. I mean, at a certain point, I guess it's still popular. Everybody went to school. That's what you did. And everybody majored in something, and that's what I did. But I mean, at the same time, you play in rock and roll bands, and you work as a lifeguard at the Pines Hotel, and you flirt with somebody's wife and get your butt kicked in. But, you know, all that stuff. It's not just straight. I mean, it's not like there's a book plastered in front of my face.
And what about you, Paul, before?
I was doing anything I had to get by. I was in music and art high school studying art, and I thought about installing telephones, and I thought about going into commercial art, and I drove a cab. I was a cab driver in New York to make some money, but this was what I wanted to do all along. I never had any doubts that this was what I was going to do. When I was in high school, sometimes teachers would say, "Why aren't you working?" And I'd say, "Well, because I'm going to be a rock star." And they would say, "No, don't you understand the chances of that are really, really slim?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, no, you don't understand. I think if people pursued what they really feel like doing without any regard to the people that are trying to stop them, they'd get there. Most of the people that are putting barricades in your way are only putting them there because if you succeed, it's that much harder for them to deal with their own failure."
What about your parents? Were they behind you in all of
My
this?
parents were behind me in that they had faith in me. I think maybe a lot of parents don't have faith in their kids because they don't have faith in themselves. They were real
But they
understanding.
let you do that, though.
Yeah,
They didn't
they
go
were-
in and take away all your
No,
posters,
no,
posters.
they were real understanding. And when I was in my room, I used to spend like 10 hours a day in the room with a guitar. And they just kind of let me do my thing and figured that even though they didn't understand what I was doing, it would work out.
Maybe being rich, now it isn't so sudden, but in the beginning, in the early days.
But we were too busy touring all the time. I think the first time we surfaced for air was something like 8 years after we started. It's been almost 2 albums a year, and I don't know how we ever got the time to do that, but most of the time we were on the road or making records. We didn't realize what happened to us.
People had these ideas. Press would often say to us, "Well, how does it feel to be making that kind of money?" when you're on the road 10 months or 11 months a year, money doesn't exist. Money to us still doesn't really exist. I mean, we basically have what we need to get by, and we're more concerned with playing than anything else. I mean, we're not people that want 10 cars. We don't want big houses all over the country. We have enough to live.
I don't own a car at all.
We don't want to be Elvis. We don't want to set ourselves apart from everybody. The way to stay in touch with rock and roll is to stay in touch with people. We're people.
You don't have houses in the country?
No, I don't think our priority was a house in the country or a big car. I don't think people need anywhere near as much as they think they need. I mean, I sure don't need a lot.
The reason I don't buy a house in the country is, first of all, I don't like the country. I'm not a great fan of trees and birds. They keep me up at night, you know, and crickets. It's not my idea of a good time, but I'm sure it's fine for other people. I'd rather, you know, go into, visit some city and stay in a hotel. I'd rather much rather have room service and, you know, call me at the hotel.
So say if you had a 10-day vacation, that's what you'd do?
Oh, sure.
Would you go to the beach or would
No.
you just in a city somewhere?
City. Cars, theater, you know, people, art, clubs, girls. There's nothing about seclusion that appeals to me right now. Probably when I'm 60. Maybe not. I don't know that I'll ever really want to get away from it. It doesn't appeal to me at all.
Well, let's talk about girls now. I've read some articles in the paper where you've been quoted as saying you've slept with 1,000 women.
Yeah, just slept, you know,
Yeah,
good friends.
right.
They happen to, each one comes in and they just go to sleep. See, you just watch TV and cookies and go to sleep.
And you're not married or anything like that.
You can't pay me to get married. I don't believe in the institution. It's a figment of somebody's imagination.
But is that based on a long-time philosophy that you started building as a child?
No,
or-
I'm basically a slut, see? And if I were to get married, I know that, you know, the same girl that comes in to fix the bed when my wife goes out is going to wind up in bed. And I don't want to lie to her. I don't think I should ever get married. I certainly don't think it would be fair to anybody to wake up in bed and find this guy next to her. But then, of course, there are some fringe benefits.
Okay, it's your turn.
How can I follow that?
Yeah. Do you have a similar philosophy?
Not at all. You know.
Do you envision yourself perhaps getting married
Sure.
one day and settling
Sure.
down and having a family?
Sure. I think, you know, that's the ideal situation, that's the ultimate situation. Until you can reach that point, or until you find somebody that you want to enter into a commitment like that with, you might as well have a ball. You know, I think monogamy is fine with the right person. Up until that point, you might as well get your rocks off, you know. Commitment is great if the person's worth it. If they're not worth it, just have some fun. Hidden messages, you know, having to do with Satan or evil or, you know, sex or drugs or whatever. And
Who exactly is behind all of this?
I think...
Is it a particular religious group? Is it
No,
Baptist, Methodist?
No, because I don't think this has much to do with religion. I think it has to do with a bunch of self-serving people who are trying to use this as a cause to further themselves. I don't think this has anything to do with religion, because religion doesn't teach pointing fingers and trying to either ruin people's careers or their names. That's not what religion is about.
You don't have to be a marketing genius to figure out, it's very clear to everybody involved that the more they talk about us, the more people are going to come and see us. So if that's clear, they're not stupid. They know full well that if they're going to do television programs and interviews about us being demonic and outlaws and all that, more people are going to come and see us. They know that, which is why I know that they're in it for themselves. That's Preacher Bob with a capital B and an O and a B. Send your dollars to P.O. Box so-and-so for my, you know, stuff against kids. And you just send your dollars to me, I'll take care of those guys.
They
Tax-free, of
actually
course.
solicit dollars to run campaigns?
P.O. Box. At the back of each pamphlet, send your donations.
We certainly don't preach anything on stage. We're in more of a position than they are to influence people. We play rock and roll music. All we're telling people is to have a good time, party, believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, everything's going to turn out okay.
In the late 70s, 77 or so, I found a band in Los Angeles called Van Halen, and everybody told me they wouldn't work, and I listened to them, unfortunately. There was another band in the beginning of the 80s that I found called Cinderella that I listened to somebody else again who said they wouldn't happen. And of course they happened. The idea behind Simmons Records is never again. When I see a band I love, I'm just going to put my money behind it and go for it. And which is why the logo of the record company is a money bag. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a money bag and it's got a big dollar sign on it. And I don't want to make any bones about it. This is obviously stuff that I love, but we're going to go for it. We're going to go for the gold.
Tell us what sort of label it's going to be. Are you going to confine it to rock acts, or is it going to be quite broad-based?
I couldn't think of a more boring thing to do than just do heavy metal. You know, metal, man, it's a heavy metal band, you know what I mean? And the eyes disappear in the back of the skull. There's certainly a place for that. It's very important to make sure that that place is covered, but I want to do full spectrum. Rock and roll is not just about one thing. And for every one person pointing fingers and saying, that's poser rock, and that's metal rock, and that's this rock, I'm sick and tired of the whole thing. It's rock and roll, and I'm going to sign the best stuff, no matter what spectrum of the rainbow it comes in.
What sort of acts have you signed so far?
Laz Netto is an English act who's a funkmeister, who is in fact the best new voice I've heard on anybody's record in the last 10 years, easily. And he writes very sexy, funky, kind of English urban blues-based material. So he's obviously not the long-haired rock and roll variety, you know, with guitars. But he's obviously got his own sexual content, so he's great. Laz Netto. House of Lords is an American band. You know, great-looking guys. They'll have no problems getting girls at the end of the show, which is also a very important ingredient. You can't just make money and get rich and famous. You want those girls. And House of Lords will be the first release on Simmons Records, and that'll come out in America by the end of September, early October. And then probably here in Europe towards the end of the year.
What for you makes a band stand out? I know you don't want to give away any trade secrets, but as you say, you were there at the start of Van Halen, Cinderella. What is it that makes bands like that, and indeed your signing, stand out for you?
For free, huh? I think more than anything, you've got to have a belief in yourself, and you have to have your own stylistic approach. No matter what anybody may think, if people think you're the uncoolest, and you're the most old-fashioned, or you're the weirdest and the most bizarre, or that you're too loud or too soft, whatever it is, you've got to be your own beast, your own brand. You can't be, oh, here's that new band that sounds just like the Stones, or here's that new band that sounds like The Who, and that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm looking for that unique person who you can't quite define. You can't quite say, you know, that sounds like so-and-so. You can't quite put your finger on it. That's what makes it legit, original. Or a band that takes totally alien points of view. For instance, the Beatles took the Everly Brothers, which were white country almost, and Chuck Berry to even Motown, and mixed that up and came up with a really great brew. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for, really diverse kinds of talent.